Hey everybody, welcome back to Quick 5 Fridays. I am your host, Kevin Hammermeister, and...
I am your host, Brandon Farrow.
I am your host, Noah Davis.
Alright guys, we can't have three hosts, but this time we're going to talk about a few things. Just Quick 5, you guys already know how it is, just trying to get a few topics out there and go in depth on them.
And
You
you're wasting
already know how it is.
And I think this time we're going to talk a little bit about leadership, and Brandon, you want to start us off? Talk about something else maybe?
Yes. So recently, this past Sunday, me and Kevin were on a leadership call for Point Guard College. I've talked about it in previous podcasts.
I think we have talked about it recently too.
Yeah. Either one works. But no, it was really, really interesting. They talked about where to start becoming successful, and like it was super cool. Like there was 3 or 4 panelists on there talking about how to start becoming successful, and they all like gave their own like life stories and stuff like that. And Kevin took like 20 pages of notes,
Yeah,
so
I took a lot.
it's perfect. So it was awesome. They said to first like pick up small habits, like pick up like a bunch of small
well,
good
not even
habits.
a bunch. I think what they were going for is that what a lot of people do when they're trying to make a change in their life for the positive by start working out or start eating better, it's that you kind of overwhelm yourself with like 3 or 4 things.
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
already challenging. So, I mean, I think they were suggesting to just pick up 1 or 2 things and start small. Like,
Yeah.
one of the things they said was to, pick the lowest hanging fruit,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just the easiest habit to pick up. Because if you get consistent with a little habit, then you're more likely to actually pick up those bigger, like, tougher ones for your life.
Yep. It was really cool to hear everybody talk about their stories about how all of them were previous basketball players and coaches, and they all talked about their like pre-games and stuff like that, and like the habits that they picked up to warm up and during practices and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool too how they related it to basketball, and then also like at the end tied it back into like how just in life, a lot of this stuff is useful. And all the people that were panelists, I don't know the main guy, Sam.
It was Sam Allen. I'm pretty
Sam
sure.
Allen, yeah. He was really good at like throwing out a bunch of different ideas, and they had like a little Q&A section. And I'm actually gonna. I kind of want to talk about leadership,
go ahead.
so I'll just for like a minute or two. So one of the biggest things that they said that makes a great leader is there was like everyone in the comments was saying what they thought they're like 2 qualities that make up an amazing leader that you can think of right off the top of your head. And to the biggest ones that I thought were important are heart and intention. And then also I think service ties into that.
Yeah.
Because not only should you have the intention of making your players, whether it be basketball, football, like any sport, whether your intention is just to make them a good player on the court or to make them a good player and also make them a good person. I think that's really important because just that intention of what you're trying to do with that player, you can have such a greater effect on them depending on what you're trying to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that they said was that the greatest coaches they've seen, they have the littlest egos, and they find a purpose in serving the others that are on their team instead of just being there and being like not really present in the moment. And one of the things that they said also that I think is pretty cool is when you're on a coaching staff or if you're just a leader in any environment, you got to find a need and you have to fill a need, right? So anything you have to, communication is like a big key with that, is you have to talk to your players, talk to your surrounding, whether it be coworkers, right? Or like group members for something. You find what they're struggling with, and that honestly is just a skill that a lot of leaders don't really possess, is the communication to find what's needed and then from there fill the need.
Yeah, and being a part of any team requires communication. You need to be able to communicate what you're doing so everybody's in the loop. You need to be able to communicate to make sure what other people are doing so you can build off that and find those little like crevices where you can make your mark.
And just one more thing I wanted to say about leadership for Noah, if you wanted to say something, is that great leaders, what they do, this really kind of stuck with me, is that great leaders raise the standard of excellence of others around them. So it's easy just to have a set place, you can set the bar so high, right? And just say, oh, we're going to win a championship this year. But great leaders are constantly raising that, right? And it's not even just on the court, it's off the court, which I think personally is even more important.
Yeah, and you know, on top of that or whatever, I think like really being passionate about it is a huge thing too, and like being passionate about your players and stuff, especially in like the team that you're coaching for, or really whatever you're doing, you know, like whatever form of leadership you're having, you know, because like I know that in the jobs that I've had, my best managers have been the one that actually like really care about the job.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that's really important, because if you're not passionate about it, you know, you're not really gonna want
To learn
lead,
about it,
yeah,
right?
and to
Yeah.
lead and stuff. So
And I think that's about our time. Right?
Yep,
So
that's about our time limit.
one thought I just want to leave you guys with, they said this as well, is that never miss 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
Right? And that directly ties into basketball. If you miss a game winner or something, right? Like, and don't let that affect you past, right? And
Yeah.
you can interpret that as much as you want. Just don't miss 2 days in a row. So
Try to keep your habits going
Mm-hmm.
and try not to miss them.
yeah, and thank you guys so much for listening to Quick 5 Fridays. I hope this one in particular, I think, should be really helpful to anyone in a leadership position, just for you know, knowledge to gain, right? And yeah, I just want to thank you guys so much for listening, and make sure to follow us on Twitter at Off the Top 7. Make sure to check out our Apple Podcast if you haven't yet. It's just Off the Top Podcast, and I think it's one of the first ones to pop up
Yep.
in that category. And again, we're very grateful for you guys, and we hope you all have an awesome day.
all right.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.